Hi there, my name is Tatum Begay,
Hi, I'm Damon Begay.
and we are a Navajo comic artist couple, and we live here in Phoenix, Arizona. When we were creating the zine, we did want it to be something that we finished within 24 hours, but when we started adding in our own Navajo culture, we realized that it was going to be something that actually needed quite a bit more time for us to flesh out and talk about and kind of reminisce a little bit about our culture and figure out what we wanted to add into the story. So we actually didn't finish the zine in 24 hours. We continued to work on it throughout that year. And I think the main hope that we wanted to accomplish with it, as far as what I could say, is we wanted to, or I wanted to bring our culture into a contemporary view for readers because I think a lot of people who are into comics have read Uzumaki or they at least know of the artist Junji Ito, and so it's a really popular book. And I wanted to bring light to some of the taboo, kind of spooky parts of our culture and put it into that context as well. And I thought that that would be a really cool thing to do to not only be a relatable book that a fellow Navajo person could laugh at, but a book that could introduce to a non Navajo or non native reader some of our taboos, and hopefully from there they kind of learn a little bit about us and they're able to laugh with us by the end of the book. So that is what I hope to accomplish with the book. But what did you hope to accomplish with the book, Damon?
I agree with everything you said. Originally it was just gonna be a gag comic, where when they see an object, a spiral object, they just freak out. Like it would be like stupid stuff, like the cinnamon roll, like a wind charm, like a rolled up uh,
Rug.
rug, and fire a hose,
Mm-hmm.
water hose. Yeah, just like a lot of things like that. But then, as we were just writing together and drawing together, yeah, it just kind of became more of a story about our Navajo culture,
Mm-hmm.
and how much we fear it. I think both of us just growing up, there was a lot of fear around, um, just like trying to get kids to behave, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
or not to do things and to show respect. A lot of it was built out of fear, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but other than that, artistically, I think this is our first real book we kind of worked together.
Mm-hmm.
We've done jam comics, and that's kind of like where one person draws a panel, the other person draws another panel, and you just kind of alternate. But in this one, it was a real fusion where every panel, one of us touched it artistically somehow. Tatum either like penciled the people and then I inked it, or I penciled it and Tatum inked it, or I did the backgrounds. And I think what I hope to accomplish with it really was to kind of figure out how we would create together.
Mm-hmm.
And ever since then, that's kind of become our style. It's we get a page, we both work on it, we both pencil some stuff. Maybe like Tatum likes to draw like the young face more, and I like to draw the old people. So then I'll draw the old people, and then I like to draw backgrounds. So then I'll just naturally draw the backgrounds, and then Tatum will draw really nice, clean inking, and then I'll just kind of scratch up a few things with like texture. And
Mm-hmm.
that's about it. So yeah. I would definitely describe it as comedy. We tried to put some horror in there. I don't think we. It was not as scary as we wanted it to be, but definitely comedy. Um, and for me, a zine is like a self-published, like DIY, like book, and this is definitely a DIY book. We originally drew every all the pages at size, so like that means like we drew on legal size paper,
Mm-hmm.
and then cut that in half, and then drew it, and then scanned it, and then formatted it um, as a book, and then sent it to the printer, and it came back, and we folded and stapled every single book. So to me, that is like the definition of a zine is when it's just made completely by the creator. And
I think it's not so much spirals, but direction that has a lot of significance to Navajo people. Um, Growing up, I think I was always kind of yelled at if I went in like a different direction than what I'm supposed to. We've talked about this a few times in regards to entering a hogan. You're supposed to enter in a certain direction, which is clockwise. You have to enter the hogan through the left and then make a circle and go to the right in a clockwise motion. Um, and I wasn't ever really explained the reason for that. It was always considered taboo. And then if I ever entered the hogan counterclockwise, I would get yelled at a lot. And so having the just growing up with that fear of going counterclockwise in a hogan, in a ceremony, um, or even just when you're going around shaking hands with people as you enter a room, um, that I think just instilled a fear in me that um, is interesting because it's never gone away. And so when we talked about spirals and Uzumaki in the Navajo culture, um, it was always kind of funny talking about the spirals because um, it was a sense of going in the counterclockwise direction and having that counterclockwise presence just be so eerie because you just don't know what's going to happen. You're always told it was bad, so it's just like somehow inviting some kind of bad vibe into your life, some bad omen. Um, so uh, that's to me that deep-seated fear holds a lot of significance when trying to make this book a horror comedy. So the story starts out with a couple who wake up in the morning and they have a hankering for cinnamon rolls. And so they decide to go to their favorite coffee shop to get a cinnamon roll. And they don't notice it just yet, but there are spirals all around them. There are spirals in the girl's hair. There's a spiral from the cinnamon roll, obviously. There are spirals in the sign for the coffee shop. The wind picks up and does little spiral patterns as it goes through the girl's hair. Um, and so they get their cinnamon roll and they hear a car crash outside and they rush out trying to figure out what had happened. And there's a truck with water hose that are kind of strewn about from the crash. They narrowly missed a dog, and all of these fire hose have the sign of the spiral. And so they're like, oh, that was weird. And after that, they just feel like they're um, kind of creeped out by all of the spirals that they saw with the crash and then in their surroundings. And so they can't shake it off. They decide one night while they're getting ready for bed that they're probably going to have to see a medicine man to make sure that they, don't have anything following them or whatnot. And so they take a trip out to the res and they meet up with a medicine man who tells them that they are cursed by a spiral. While they're there with the medicine man, they see that there, could maybe be a solution to their issue. And so the medicine man tells them about a ritual that they can complete where they go in a clockwise motion around his hogan with some sage tied to their arms, and then they can use that to try to bring balance or I guess harmony back into their lives. But while they're getting ready to do that, the medicine man notices, he goes outside and he notices that there are a bunch of snakes that are coming up to the hogan, and so that's when he says, "Yeah," um, and he goes back into the hogan and he has them perform that ritual. But while they're performing the ritual, the snakes all gather together and they create some super snake. And This is where we had, I think, the most fun, was because once they form that super snake and they're about to attack the couple, um, the smoke that's generated from the couples running around the Hogan itself becomes a spirit warrior esque kind of creature that takes on the form of a cinnamon roll. And that creature then fights off the giant snake, and they win and they survive. And Then the story ends with them being at the Indian hospital on Indian school, um, because the boyfriend had actually sprained a muscle trying to run around the Hogan. And so while he's recovering, the girlfriend is kind of dispersing some crumbs from a cinnamon roll out the window, which in itself is a call to how we kind of sprinkle corn pollen, which we call taradine, out to give a blessing, to say thank you. And so that's her way of saying thank you to the spirit warrior that had helped them.